Hi, I'm Kate Beaton. I'm the author of Patos, and I've come here from Canada to be at the Comics Fest in Barcelona. I think it came naturally. She was a character who came to mind, and then when I thought of what her story might be, doing research on sharks and trying to understand their lives, you saw the kind of peril that they're in because of humans. And that was very interesting to me because we are sort of made to fear sharks because they're powerful and we have Shark Week on TV and they're scary. But in reality, they're the ones who need our help. So that's an interesting thing to play around with. And also, you're talking to kids who sharks are our all-time favorite sort of animal. And there's no better time to get them on board with helping out the sharks than when you're talking to a kid. We did the same thing with wolves, didn't we? At least in North America, or maybe here too. They were a feared animal and always in the fairy tales as the bad guy, but they were overhunted. They were sort of mercilessly pursued in order to protect livestock. And as usual, the real baddies are us guys. Yeah. Yeah, well, it has a lot to do with fishing, right? And I'm from a fishing village. So there are two things going on. One is that as humans, we have misused the oceans and overfished and caused a lot of trouble down there. But also, nobody is more invested in the health of oceans and fish life than people who fish, because their lives depend on it. They depend on a healthy stock and sort of a fair work practice. And so it made sense that, for one, the girl in the book, who's part shark and part human, would get really angry when she's scooped up in a net that she's not supposed to be caught in the first place, but then also that she would find human allies when she goes onto the boat to kind of extract her revenge. Well, I grew up with all girls in my house. There were four girls, so four sisters, and so there was no question in our house. My older sister was the scariest one, and it's a fact of life. And so in books and things, when you're a kid, you're taking in media stories. You're not really considering how they're being told to you. But as an adult, you definitely notice it. And of course, I have a 5-year-old daughter right now, and she loves mermaids and princesses and the whole thing. So I think it just depends on the kind of story that we give them. Here's what the mermaid does in this story. And it was also a really interesting thing to make this book and give the protagonist a reason to be angry and to show that anger, because anger in kids' books is a funny thing. It's usually an emotion that we don't want to see. We don't want to portray it in a positive way. It's something that we have to deal with and get rid of. But for everyone, there are plenty of good reasons to get angry. But what do you do with it? What do you do with that feeling? And nobody feels things more deeply than kids. They get very mad, and it may look irrational to us, but for them, it's very real. And we have to give them positive outlets for the way that they feel, and not tell them to just don't be angry, don't feel that way. I think that the best work you're going to do is the thing that you're most interested in the moment. And I have a range of interests. I wanted to tell the story in ducks at this very important time in my life that is also very heavy. I'm also a mother right now with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so we really are. I mean, there's a lot of Paw Patrol in my life right now, but you become aware of looking at your children and thinking, wow, like they're so interesting and so smart, and so making work for them is rewarding as well. We all contain so many different versions of ourselves and so many things that we want to say. It's rare to find an artist who only has one thing to say and one thing to make it in. Most of us have lots of different things going on inside, and you just got to find kind of the right outlet for it. It's difficult to say because no one gives you a report on something like that. But the fact that it was such a popular book, I see it show up all the time in narratives about the oil sands, in when people raise the issues that are in there, they often cite my book as a reference. And that kind of visibility can only be an indicator for positive change, because before the book came out, the idea of life in the oil sands to anybody who never experienced it was sort of nebulous. It's hearsay, it's sensationalized magazine articles, things like that. But there's no denying the humanity of this story, and the way that you can identify with it. So I hope that it has brought about positive change, and that it's part of a larger movement of positive change, because in my day, we never talked about mental health in the workplace, but generally you do see more conversations about that now than you ever did, and that's true everywhere. So you can hope that things have changed for the better, and I hope that my comic is a part of that. I mean, I didn't consider this a living that I could have pursued, but that's mostly because I had no comics in my life as a kid. We were just too rural and far away from things. But now, lots of young girls will come up to me, and it makes me feel very old, but they're like, I read your comics when I was in school, and now I'm a famous author. And you think, wow, I'm old, and also good, that's great. I want to be that person for them, and I want them to have lots of people who remind them of themselves, that give the example. Sometimes just being the example is an enormous thing. And I will say that, like, one of the newspaper comics that we had growing up was by a Canadian woman. She was in there with all the American, the Garfields and all that stuff. And her comic strip was about family life in the suburbs of Toronto. So even then, even as a kid, I did have that at least a little bit of a notion that, hey, this is something that maybe you could do, only because somebody who is like you is already doing it. And so in comics, when I first came in, we're in the middle of like a shift change of like it being this sort of like understood male industry. And that's not even true, because, you have pioneering female comics from the alt comics days and everything. They've always been there, but it felt like there was a paradigm shift going on. And now, from hearsay anyway, you understand that there are just like, so almost even like we're at par, or there might even be more girls interested in making comics. And not just male, female, but like queer content creators. They find a community there who want to tell stories and also want to be that storyteller that provides books that weren't there when they were growing up. So it's a really cool time to be in comics. One of the, it's not like an industry that is overly rich, but it's one where the gatekeepers have a less of an influence. So if you want to make something, you make it, and if it's good, people will pay attention. And it's not a complete meritocracy, but there is an allowance of letting people in to do the work that they want to do and responding to it simply because it's good. It's amazing. I mean, on my shelf at home, there is a copy of Ducks in all the languages, because I always get sent a copy. And you look at that and think, do people really read this? Are they really reading this in Spain or any of these other places? And if they do, I hope that they can relate to it. I hope that it matters, especially with a book like Ducks, just because it has so many social issues in it. But it's also one thing to get that book in the mail or to sign a contract online that says, yes, you can publish things. But then it's to come here and see the amazing comics community that's here. My publishers here, Norma, they have such amazing books, and I'm looking up all the people who I'm signing with at the same time and stuff. And we don't get that many European comics in Canada and North America. You get like, of course, you get like Black Sad and stuff, but like, which is great. But there's such a rich comic culture here, and oftentimes we don't get to see it. So it's like, for me to come here, it just feels very invigorating. And Canada is a country that is small population-wise and sort of very proud of its own comic industry. So whenever I come somewhere, I love to see what they're doing, because I feel like most of us are sort of looking for our own voices in an industry that's bigger and centered maybe somewhere else. I get the feeling that here that's like France for comics. But it's so exciting to be somewhere and to see what they have to offer.